Welcome to the 5th episode of Voices of IIS, a space to learn about the wonderful people who work at IIS, explore fresh perspectives, and hopefully get inspired. After having studied international relations and politics, today's guest received his PhD in comparative religions from the University of Kent. He has edited a number of collective volumes and published several articles and reviews in academic journals. Dr. Reza Shah-Kazemi is currently a senior research associate at IIS, where he is editing the English translation and edition of the Great Islamic Encyclopaedia. Welcome, Reza, and thank you for joining us. Before we get into your work, I'd love to hear more about your background. What inspired you to travel the academic path that you have undertaken, and how you came to work at IIS?
Thank you, Selina. Well, the first thing to say is that I didn't really intend to traverse this particular academic path that has unfolded before me in these last 25 years or so. As you mentioned, I did my first degrees in politics, BA and MA, and then, if you like, the passion that has been underlying everything that I've done, but not necessarily my academic career, was that in which I did my PhD, which was comparative religion. And I studied three great saints: Ibn Arabi in Islam, Meister Eckhart in Christianity, and Shankaracharya in Hinduism. And I asked basically the question, what is transcendence? What is the ultimate reality? And how do you realize that reality? So it's the concept of transcendence from three different religious starting points, and the realization of transcendence according to very different spiritual methods, rites, rituals, orientations, dispositions. And I came to the conclusion that, my goodness, it's identical. The three paths lead to the same summit. And the Hindu phrase Sat Chit Ananda sums up that which Ibn Arabi says: being, consciousness, and bliss. Sat is being, Chit is consciousness, Ananda is beatitude, bliss, felicity. And so from the Hindu point of view, that was deemed to be the ultimate reality that can be assimilated as one's true self with a capital S. From the Islamic point of view, one doesn't talk about the self having realized this unless you're Hallaj. He said, Anal Haq, I am the real, which in the Hindu context would be regarded as a perfectly truthful statement, nothing controversial, nothing particularly outstanding about it. But in Islam, of course, he got himself into serious trouble for saying that. Ibn Arabi puts it slightly differently when he says that the reality of wujud, which means being, comes to wajd, which is ecstasy. The same three letters that make up wujud, being, means in the wajd formulation, ecstasy, and wujud, wijdan, al-wajd. All three of these key terms, being, consciousness, and bliss, are there in the letters waw, jim, dal, wajada. So, wujud, being, wijdan, consciousness, and then wajd, bliss. Meister Eckhart says much the same thing. When the word of Jesus Christ is born in your soul, the content of the word that's spoken inside you is bare being. I was bare being, he says, and the content of the word was pure consciousness and infinite joy. So you have the same three elements expressed by the greatest sages and saints of these three different traditions. And that is what made me feel it's this unity of the religions on the level of mysticism, metaphysics, spirituality, that is the driving force. Now, Having got my PhD in 94 from Kent University, I was unable to find work on the basis of that PhD.
Mm-hmm.
I had to go into becoming an editor. And this is what leads me to how I came to work at the Institute of Ismaili Studies, because I had a couple of jobs as editor, the Islamic World Report, working for a Malaysian institute, the Institute of Policy Research. And then I was out of work from 98 to 2000. I was out just looking for work, finding the occasional editing job here and there, but nothing serious. And I was told that the Institute is advertising a post as for an editor. So I applied, and I was shortlisted with Patricia Salazar.
Oh, wow. Okay.
This is way back in either 99 or 2000.
Mm-hmm.
The two of us were shortlisted, and I had my interview with Dr. Daftari, and he said, Reza, or Dr. Shah-Kazemi, I'm very sorry, I'm not going to be able to offer you this position. We have to give it to Patricia. She has 20 odd years of experience as an editor, and you are overqualified for the post. So I'm very sorry. I felt like saying to Dr. Daftari, if you offered me a job as a cleaner, I would not consider myself overqualified. I would jump at it. I need a job.
Mm-hmm.
I need some money. So I exited his office, very disappointed. Qutb Qassam, the late Qutb Qassam, who was then senior editor of the Institute, he said, did you get the position? I said, no. He said, come into my office. He opened up a cupboard, stacks of manuscripts. In those days, it was not all on computers. These were actual manuscripts in his office waiting to be edited. He said, these are all translations of a whole variety of texts. Choose any one you want, edit it, and I will be able to give you as much work as you need on a commission basis.
Mm-hmm.
So I took Jafar Subhani's book, The Doctrines of Shia Islam, that had been very badly translated. So I retranslated it, edited it, submitted it. Dr. Daftari saw it, and then he spoke to Professor Nanji. If you remember, he was the director at the time, late 90s into the 2000s. And it was Dr. Daftari who told Professor Nanji, let's employ Dr. Shah-Kazemi and employ him as a research associate, not as an editor. So that was how my, quote, professional career as a research associate began. Mm-hmm. I was taken out of being an editor into being a researcher, lecturer, and all those other things. And it's all thanks to Dr. Daftari.
Wow.
That's how I came to work here.
Can I ask, how many languages do you speak?
Not that many, and I don't speak them as well as I should. You only have to ask Shiraz Kabani and Najam Abbas how bad my my Urdu and Punjabi is. I should speak my father's language much better, so I don't speak it well at all. I speak my mother's language, which is Persian, reasonably well, and I can't speak Arabic to save my life. Literally, if someone were to attack me with a knife, I would say, La taqtulu Yusuf, because that's the only thing I know from the Quran. Don't kill Yusuf. I wouldn't want to say don't kill me. So my Arabic is not I can't speak it at all. I can understand Arabic when it's spoken slowly and in Fusha, in classical Arabic.
Yes.
But colloquial, it's very difficult for me to understand. And I speak French. And for my sins, I speak French probably better than my Persian, my Urdu, or anything else. So That's my second language, really, after English.
Okay. That's so interesting. So it sounds like it's almost come full circle.
Exactly.
So I would love for you to speak about how we have now come to sort of complete that circle and your work on the Great Islamic Encyclopedia.
Yes, well, that's very well put. That I began my professional life as an editor, and now that I'm in a kind of I'm in semi-retirement, let's say. I work now 3 days a week at the Institute, and the bulk of my time is taken up with the editing. I'm managing editor of the the Great Islamic Encyclopaedia. And it's been a great privilege to be working on this project, which was really conceived. I suppose we really have to give, of course, credit to this to the late Aga Khan, His Highness, Rahmatullah alayhi, because he wanted very much for the Institute to enter into a collaboration with a major academic institution in Iran. And this was the one that, through Shams Villani and Dr. Daftari, we ended up collaborating on. And this is arguably the most important encyclopedia which covers Shia Islam as well as Sunni majority Islam, but also is not so Arabo-centric, as well as being not Sunni-centric. It's just looking at the Islamic phenomenon, the civilizations, the societies, the perspectives, the schools of thought, the schools of law, across the whole geographic spread of the Muslim world, but also the thematic aspects are carefully calibrated in order to give justice and due weight to Shia Islam as well. Now, having said that, we made an effort to take the edge off the polemically Shia aspects, because we received articles, starting with A, of course, and we're now coming up to H and I and J. And we received articles from top scholars in Iran that had published their works in the Persian original edition. Our job was to take the English translation of those articles to a high level of academic acceptability, to encyclopedia level English, both as regards the style and the content. So we had to carefully eliminate all elements of Shia polemics that would stain the reputation of our English edition of this work. So to give you one example, when we had the first volume, in fact, Abu Bakr came up, the first caliph. And there are all sorts of things that we couldn't publish and allow our academic reputation to be sullied by this prejudice coming from the Shi'i point of view. So we had to take those out, and we had to add things that should have been there that were not there because the Shi'is didn't want to give too much credit or credence to the first caliph. And it was this that was spotted by our first, I think he was our first reviewer, Rob Gleave, a top scholar from Exeter, now at Bristol actually. Bristol and now Exeter. And he wrote the first serious academic review of it, saying how excellent this publication is and how fair and balanced it is. And he specifically referred to the article on Abu Bakr.
Oh, wow. I mean, you've spoken to the importance of the project, and it just is amazing. Having worked here now for years, we've heard about this project for so long. What impact is this going to have in the field?
Well, it's already had a great impact. These, as I say, these reviews that have been published and other comments that have been made by senior scholars around the world. Lenny Lewison, for example, the late Leonard Lewison, top scholar in Persian Sufi literature, he said that what makes this encyclopedia so different and which will have such a profound impact upon the academic world, Western academia, is that instead of just giving encyclopedia type articles, which are factual and ostensibly objective, these articles go into depth with analytical rigor, but also creative, innovative, original interpretations of the figures that are being discussed. For example, our article that we had to write from scratch on Ali. We did that, volume 3, because they hadn't reached the Ain in Arabic. We had to do the A for Ali. So we wrote that article ourselves. It's 12 parts. We've gone into the biography, the teachings, his spirituality, his mysticism, his legal decisions, his political role. And it's like a little book of its own. Sui, it's an independent little booklet, you might say. And another good example of that is the article that's coming out in this coming volume, which is on halaj. We don't just give the factual, the historical, we're also entering into creative interpretations of what halaj meant when he came out with all of these astonishing statements, an al-haq, as we've had earlier. So it will make an impact because it's an original contribution to scholarship at the same time as being a balanced and a comprehensive coverage of all dimensions of the Islamic phenomenon.
That's an amazing project, and it must feel quite, I would imagine, quite rewarding to be a part of that, actually, because that is a massive undertaking. And oh, that's fantastic. Thank you so much for sharing that.
You're welcome.
Now, I've got to ask you, what excites you and what are your passions outside of work?
Outside of work.
Hard to imagine outside of work.
Because work for me has always been integrated into my spiritual life. I've always tried to make my work an extension of my spiritual life, which is my passion. I mean, I as I said at the beginning, it's the idea that the supreme reality is consciousness and beatitude, and how we realize that is through what was the title of my book on Imam Ali, Justice and Remembrance. Justice, the Imam emphasized, is the key quality that we should have in our dealings with our fellow human beings, with ourselves, be just in relation to oneself, and therefore humble in relation to oneself. One's ultimate reality, to whom one's accountable, renders one, in principle, permanently humble. And how do we achieve this humility vis-a-vis God and our fellow human beings? Justice vis-a-vis God and with the whole of creation. We achieve it, according to Imam Ali, through remembrance of God. God is the source of justice. God is the source of your consciousness, of your nothingness. So I've always been passionate about the remembrance of God. That is my overriding passion, to try and remember God as fully and sincerely and humbly as possible. And where you fail, you just pick yourself up and start again with the one thing needful, which is to pray and to invoke the divine reality, to invoke the name of God. And I suppose if you were to ask me what is my greatest passion outside of all of that, I would say it would have to be horse riding.
Horseback riding.
That's
I
my
love
passion.
that.
But unfortunately, I couldn't keep my horse. I had a horse, beautiful horse called Prince, big and strong and fast. But the £650 a month for livery alone, that's just for the food and the lodging of the horse in the stables. And then you had the shoes on top of that, the vet's fees. It just became too hard. But what I can do, and the stables are just 5-minute walk from my house. And then we go up into the hill, Toys Hill and other places. So what I can do, thankfully, is because they trust me, I can take out any one of the other horses. And then I just pay them a minimum thing, £20. And I can have it for 2-3 hours.
So you can still enjoy that.
I can still enjoy the ride, but not my own horse. It's just beyond my budget now. I can't afford to.
Why the name Prince, Reza?
Well, because the original name was Proton, which is a horrible name, Proton. And I said, well, I keep the first 2 letters, PR, and I'll change it to Prince.
Oh, wow.
He's a lovely, lovely horse. But I had to give him up, and he's now in Richmond somewhere in some other stables. Without running, because that has always been side by side with the galloping on the horse. I actually run quite seriously, 2 to 3 miles, 2 to 3 times a week. I'm now realizing, given I'm going to be 65 in a few weeks' time, I realize I do not have the capacity to run 2 or 3 miles, 2 or 3 times a week, unless I hate to say this, I have to go and do gym work. I've got to strengthen my quads, my hamstrings, and my glutes, because my legs are not as strong as they used to be, and all sorts of things are going to go wrong with me if I don't strengthen those 3 sets of muscles. So I've got to do all those straining and stressing of the leg machine muscles.
Mm-hmm.
So that's what I love. I love running. And in this sort of weather, you can imagine, I don't want to stop running.
Mm-hmm.
It's so beautiful. And I live in a place where I can run for miles and miles in the fields, in the hills, without having to cross roads and things like that.
And that's a lovely way to connect with nature and the divine. And
it's beautiful.
But in everything, it sounds like there is this infusion, right, of your core beliefs of and I'm happy that you mentioned justice and remembrance as well, because I think that might have been one of IIS's bestsellers of all times was Dr. Shah-Kazemi's book, Justice and Remembrance, on Imam Ali. And if you have a chance, if you've not read it, a plug to sort of pick it up and give it a read. And it can be done not from start to finish. You can pick it up wherever, and I'm sure it will be enjoyed by all. I knew this would happen. I knew our time would be up before the blink of an eye. And our time indeed is up. And I could certainly spend the next several hours with you, as I'm sure our audience could as well. So I want to offer a massive thank you to our guest, Dr. Reza Shah-Kazemi. It has been an absolute pleasure to share this conversation with you. Thank you so much. To our audience, thank you so much for spending your valuable time with us today. With so many podcasts out there, we really appreciate you choosing to spend your time with us. If you enjoyed the show, be sure to subscribe on Spotify or wherever you find your podcasts. That's it for today. I'm Selina, and this is Voices of IIS. Until next time, take care.